The following is an AZPM original production.
Arizona Science is supported by Research Corporation for Science Advancement.
For AZPM, I'm Leslie Tolbert, Regents Professor Emerita in Neuroscience at the University of Arizona, and this is Arizona Science. Today we'll talk with Vance Holliday, Professor Emeritus in both Anthropology and Geosciences at the U of A, and an award-winning expert in the science of early human populations, most specifically Paleo-Indian populations. Thanks very much for joining us, Vance.
Thanks, Leslie. It's very nice to be here. I've been a fan of your show for some years now.
So you've recently published a really exciting paper in the journal Science dating ancient human footprints to maybe over 20,000 years ago. Tell us why that work is so significant.
Well, the issue of how long people have been in the Americas has been around at least going back to, certainly before the 1800s, even way back. So that was a general interest I had. And then the specifics of what are the oldest sites? When were people first here? So anything older than 13,000 is different. It's
and this
new.
Is 10,000 years
and this
before
is,
that.
This particular site, the human tracks are as old as 23,000 years old. And White Sands, I got invited to work there in 2012. The Park Service people contacted me. They had some footprints, as a matter of fact, but purely by coincidence. They had footprints, and they wanted me to come out and have a look because they thought they were quite old. As it turned out, they were tracks of giant ground sloth whose tracks can look like human tracks. This was in the park, just a little ways away on the White Sands Missile Range, right across the fence. There were some trenches open, just by coincidence. I don't even know what they were there for, but there were some trenches. And so I worked there in 2012 in those trenches, and then they were reopened in 2018 and got some more data. In the winter of 2019 and 2020, just before COVID hit, some human tracks were found, but we couldn't be sure that the tracks were the same age as, say, the mammoth. Because somebody could go out there today after a rain and walk by an old exposed mammoth track, and you'd have them together. So what we were waiting for were the park people who were pushing this. They deserve all the credit for this. They finally found a place where they had human tracks coming out where they could trace them into some layers of lake beds and start excavating them and find them in their original geologic context. And I knew from the trenches I had worked in just a few hundred yards away, I already had an idea how old they were because it was the same deposits.
And what is it that's so important about confirming what others had already sort of insinuated from maybe weaker data, that these footprints are 23,000 years old? What's so important about that?
There are two parts of that. I had no problems with the dating, but there were some criticisms. And the reason it's so critical is because at this time, that age range you gave, 23,000 to 21,000, it's a critical time because essentially all of Canada was covered by glacial ice. So the Americas, southern North America and down into South America was effectively blocked off from Asia. So if people were here, they probably had to have gotten here even earlier, before the ice blockage. And so then you're pushing back the story even more than 23,000. But in any case, a site that old had never been firmly documented in the Americas anywhere. So that alone, just the age alone, 23 to 21,000 was very unusual. And then it becomes more unusual when you start thinking about, well, how did people get here? They must have been here even earlier before the ice blockage. So there are a whole series of ramifications of this.
Well, thank you very much. Vance Holliday is an award-winning explorer of ancient human ancestors, especially in and around our own desert Southwest. You can listen to this and all Arizona Science conversations at azpm.org/Arizona Science. I'm Leslie Tolbert.
Thank you to Research Corporation for Science Advancement for their support of Arizona Science. AZPM podcasts are made possible in part by donations from listeners like you. Learn more at support.azpm.org. Thank you.